On President Trump's plan to start dismantling the DOE turns to how local and state officials are responding to that order. Western Mass News reporter Matt Price live in studio with more details. Matt?
Yeah, Chris, this is something the president said he would do even as he was campaigning. And one local school superintendent says he's not surprised by the move, and it unleashes a wide range of anxiety.
It certainly disquiets people. It makes people uncertain.
Hampshire Regional School District Superintendent Vito Perrone speaking exclusively with Western Mass News as President Donald Trump signed an executive order calling for the shutting down of the U.S. Department of Education. Perrone tells us a move like this would affect all students in his district, not just low-income IEP and English language learners.
When you start talking about advanced placement classes and dual enrollment classes and grants to make sure that students are able to get, like a dual enrollment credit at the high school and credit at a community college. How long are we going to be able to do those things if that money from the federal level dries up?
This executive order directs the Secretary of Education to take steps to facilitate the department's closure and return educational authority to all 50 states. Congressman Richard Neal tells Western Mass News that move is a mistake, calling the potential order not thought out.
I think it's going to mean more work for state officials and for local officials, and I think it'll make it much more difficult to measure uniform achievement standards. I think it also would be much more difficult to comprehend what disabilities mean in our learning initiatives.
Governor Maura Healey also weighing in on the executive order, saying that shuttering the DOE is bad for students, teachers, and schools. In a statement obtained by Western Mass News, she says in part, quote, "This will mean bigger class sizes, canceled after school programs, and less support for our students, especially those who live in rural communities or have special needs." As for Perrone, he says should the DOE be dismantled, it could lead to a lot of bad consequences.
We would have to rethink our plans around fiscal prudence and our plans around budgeting. Many districts are talking about cuts, very deep cuts to their programming. And, in a school budget, very quickly, those cuts start affecting students in the classroom and teachers in the classroom.
Perrone says his message to his community is while they cannot control what the president does, they can control their own response to it, and that the focus is on all the students going to school every day. Reporting live in the studio, Matt Price, Western Mass News.
Well, this morning began with fog and drizzle. It was a dreary start to the spring season.